Welcome to the Florida Trail Runners Project. Out in the woods, out in the swamps, down by the Willie Coochie. It started with a podcast, now it's a thing. The Florida Trail Runners, Florida Trail
All right, here we are with episode 128 of the Florida Trail Runners podcast, another Skunk Ape chat. And on the chat, we've got Grant Bonnets, Scott Brady, Shane Potter, and Robbie Manugan. And for this year, Grant, he came out and set the new course record for the 50 miler. He's the first person to go sub 9 on the Skunk Ape 50 mile course. And he finished with a time of 8:57.19. And it wasn't easy. And he talks about how going sub 9 almost didn't happen. So it was cool to see and hear how his race went down. And Scott didn't get it last time he came out to the Skunk Ape 50, but this year he got it done with a time of 21:44.36 to take the DFL title. Now for Robbie and Shane, they both took on the 50 mile distance for the first time. Robbie got it done with a time of 12:18.17, while Shane, he got it done with a time of 10:34.24, and he even placed 8th place overall. So hey, with that in the Skunk Ape 50 mile, let's just jump right into it.
Sugar sand all around. From the Swanee River to the St. John's, from Crystal River and the Rainbow Springs, Weeki, Watchee, and Manatees, and the Everglades, and Lake Okeechobee. The humidity is sticky, but I love this game. From the Panhandle down to the Keys.
Hey, how you doing? Good. Thanks for the invite.
Oh yeah, it's fun. The week after the race, obviously that's the time I like to do it, but I'm just too worn out.
Oh yeah, I bet. I can only imagine. I can only imagine what it takes getting something like that organized, set up, and then breaking it all down. Yeah. How long is that process for you?
The worst part is the cleanup once I get back home, because I do not want to put anything back in my shed.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. You're probably just worn out. Trash.
Yo, how's it going?
Hey.
Hey, Grant.
Hey, Scott.
How's it going?
There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I know it's been a while since Skunk Ape 50, but like, how are you guys feeling?
I'm good. I can't wait to get back out there.
This is Shane. So I decided to take on a crazy challenge. I joined a virtual challenge, the Badwater 267 Virtual Elite Race, which runs 16 days, and you have to run 267 miles over the course of 16 days, all outside, tracked on GPS. So that's an average of 17 miles a day. It just so happens that day one was on the Skunk Ape. So I thought, I'll knock 50 miles out in day one. Well, didn't think about the fact that I didn't give myself any time to recover. So this is my first 50 miler, which ended up being 55 for me. Got home, took one day off, and then jumped right back into it. So I ended up finishing on Saturday. So I made it 15 days because I was like, basically, I didn't care how long it was going to take me. I had 24 miles to go. And I was like, I'm so over this thing. I want to rest on Sunday. So I'm feeling much better today. But on Saturday, I was wrecked because it was just 2 weeks of nonstop.
I remember seeing that online. I was like, oh, all right. I guess he just jumping right back into it.
Jumped right back in. Not saying I advised that. The first run, I did 8 miles on Monday, right after Skunk Ape. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can barely walk, but got through it. It was a cool challenge. So definitely pushed me. I think there was like 121 of us that registered, and 74 of us finished the 267. So it's cool.
Nice. This is Scott Brady. I haven't done any long runs since Skunk Ape just because of my work schedule, but I'm looking for my next challenge to try. So I'm excited.
This is Grant. Yeah, I haven't been running too much since Skunk Ape. I took a week and a half off. Then this past Wednesday, I did my first run back. So I'm just gonna begin building volume again. I guess start low and just build back up.
This is Robbie. I've ran just a little bit after the Skunk Ape, probably just 6 miles. I would say just like 6 miles or less runs, probably 4 or 5 of those. But it really hurt. But after about 3 days of the Skunk Ape recovery, I was pretty good and back to normal. It wasn't so much my body that was sore, but It's just the insides. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't want to eat anything or any of that.
Well, you did throw up a few times.
Yeah, and then I went to Texas Roadhouse and right after and sat on the curb and threw up for about 30 more minutes.
Oh, jeez.
It was rough.
It sucks.
And everyone was
Sounds probably
walking
too much in
by.
and out.
Yeah, everyone was walking by and was like, "Wow, buddy, long night, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, it was a long day."
They thought you had too much to drink.
Yeah. It was hilarious.
I feel like it's easier just to roll with that than try to have to explain really what happened.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't even say anything.
I voluntarily ran over 50 miles.
Yeah.
But I guess, before all of this, I mean, how'd you get into trail running?
Sure, I'll start us off. Again, I'm Scott Brady. I kind of got into trail running when I was a kid. Honestly, like I grew up just running around the mountains, with my brother and stuff. But didn't really start trail running until mid-20s. Never did anything really far, distance wise. But I've always enjoyed trying to find what my limits are. So I just keep trying to bump up the distance more and more. And I've been chasing an ultra finish for probably about 3 or 4 years now. Did the Two Prairies Ultra back in March. That was my first 50K finish. And then Skunk Ape 50 was my first 50-mile finish. Tried it last year, got to mile 42 roughly, and had some crew technical difficulties. I'll put it that way. And then, came back this year and decided to finish it off.
Oh, that's so close to you. That's basically Lambridge or something, close to it.
Yeah, it was. I think I had like 2 more aid stations left to go, roughly.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it was, yeah. And crew misunderstood what was going on. Of course, they're not really trail runners. They were just trying to help out. But yeah, they're just trying to watch out for me, which I appreciated. But just being able to, like I said, try to find my, what my limits are and what I can push myself to accomplish. Representing different, look at everybody has their own reasons for, running and all that. But it means a lot to be able to be out in a community like that that's so supportive.
Yeah, there's suffering and then there's suffering. Sometimes people, it's hard to distinguish between the two.
Well, I can go next. Well, this is Grant again. I don't know if I need to say that, but I ran cross country and track in high school. Then getting into college, I got a little more into ultra endurance. I did Ironman. I did a half Ironman as like my first ultra-esque event. And then I did a full Ironman. And then one of my friends, I was competing on the college climbing team at the time. One of my friends really wanted to do a trail race. So we did a 10-mile trail race as like the first one. It was called Race to the Lake. And it was a really trash experience. Yeah, it was a really bad experience because I had never fueled for anything before. Running wise, I had fueled for like my Ironman and half Ironman, obviously, but for like a running race specifically, I just never had fueled. So I carried that same mentality into the 10-miler, and it was pretty brutal with a lot of vert. And I went so slow that I was just completely bonking. So it was a really horrible experience, but we decided to double down. I did a 50-miler also in college, just off the back of that. Did one called Fall Creek Falls 50 in Tennessee. Was leading the race for the first 30 miles, and then we went off course. One of the signs had been knocked down at a right turn, so we went about 2.5 miles just bushwhacking. And then we came all the way back. Needless to say, we were no longer in the lead. Kept running, had an allergic reaction at mile 45 and had to sit at an aid station for an hour and a half. It was about 20 degrees outside and it was just really bad. So my body shut down and again, just a bad experience, but finished that one. And then I DNF'd a 100-miler out in Moab, Utah at mile 78. It was the Ute 100. And yeah, this was like my first successful, not just a bad experience trail race in all honesty. But, I've just transitioned to working on speed. And, I feel like trail for me is so interesting because I love the fact that it takes a long time. And I feel like I like that because it's just that isolation in nature. I'm a big outdoors person and I love like that solace that you can achieve just mentally. when you're out on a long trail race. So, it's interesting trying to really train for speed and do it quicker and quicker. But that's sort of, segueing into what I think I'm going to do next. I think I really want to try and maximize what I can get out of the 50K distance, hop more on the UTMB circuit and try and qualify for OCC. I think that's sort of the path I'm going to take.
Nice.
This is Shane. Scott, I think it's cool that you came back after DNFing, and Grant goes from having bad experiences to crushing it, like course record stuff. So that's cool. I am new to this whole stuff. I'm 37, so I'm getting into this later on in life. I've explored all different types of fitness stuff. I think when I was a kid, I loved running, played sports, basketball. Then I had my daughter when I was young, and so been focusing on that and work. And I've tried all kinds of fitness stuff. I've gone through 2 weight loss journeys. I've lost 85 pounds over two times. Um, Struggled with my weight just on and off my whole life, and got into CrossFit in about 4 years ago, and did that for 2 years. Got my CFL1 and was doing a coaching internship. And a lot of people I knew were getting into endurance stuff and triathlon. So 2 years ago in April, so it's been almost 2 years. It's been just a little over 2 years. I signed up for an Olympic triathlon and trained for that for 6 months. Had like a super cheap $300 road bike. All these people show up with these fancy bikes. I think I made it, I want to say 12 miles out of the 26, and then I get a flat tire. And I was like, I've been riding on this bike for 6 months and had no problem. Like, it was just a shit show. Like, I could swim. I got up to where I could swim a mile, get there, and they're like, the swim is canceled. I get a flat tire, try to ride on that for like 4 more miles. Terrible idea. It just wasn't going. They were like, we don't have any road crews today, so we can't fix your bike. I finished the run and I was like, you know what? I'm over this bike stuff. I'm just going to run. And so 2 months later, I just woke up on a random Sunday and ran a marathon at my house. And so that was January 2025. I did another marathon. I did like an actual marathon event in November. And then this year, same thing. I don't know why, but like January 2nd, I was like, I'm just going to run another marathon and try to go under 3 hours and 30 minutes. And I hit my goal. And I was like, you know what? I want to see what this ultra stuff's all about. So I signed up for the Skunk Ape, and I'm loving it. I love it. Signed up for my next thing is I got a 100-miler coming up in August in Georgia. And then I signed up September. I'm going to do a backyard ultra in Tennessee. So I'm enjoying it.
Oh yeah, and that's the Mamba one, that last man standing.
Yeah, the Mamba one. Yeah, so I'm like, I mean, the Skunk Ape, I had a blast, man. I loved it. I did a self-supported 50K and 60K just around my house to try to like get prepared for this. I've done like 4 or 5 marathons just like on my own, just training. I love running. I love it, especially on the trails. And so I thought, hey, I want to push my limits, see how far I can go. So that was like the idea with the 100-miler, and I've been seeing a lot of videos about guys doing the backyard ultra, and I was like, hey, I want to try that. So gonna try those this year, and yeah, I'm pumped for it. So
Yeah, I think it's a unique challenge because it's really how far can you go, and there's other people there, but you are really only challenging yourself.
yeah, it is, because yeah, you're right. It doesn't really matter how far the other person goes. I mean, it does, right? Because you want to be the last person, but it's really more about you. Like, if you're going to the mindset of, and I saw some videos on this, the guy Mark Dowdle that won, go one more, and he was like going in it to win, but then he had to switch his mindset, like you're saying, like, well, how far can I go, and focus on like myself and pushing myself. And that's what got him to like 306 miles, I think, something crazy. So yeah,
Yeah, I was following that one. That mud was insane.
it's like 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like concrete. I mean, he beat Harvey Lewis. So
Yeah, and that's not an easy task.
no, because he's got like 440 or something like that. He's like 4.5 days. It's wild. So yeah, it'll be a fun time.
I'm Robbie, and I'm from Colorado. I guess I can go last. So I grew up out in Colorado, and was a big hiker, hiking a lot of 14ers. Never really got into running ever until this last fall when it was about December time, and I had two friends that were running a marathon, and one of them got hurt, and one of the girls was like, "I don't want to run this alone. Can you join me?" And it was February 8th, and it was the St. Petersburg Marathon. And so I was like, "Oh, like, okay, it can't be that hard. Like, it's just running." So I decided to run it. And most I trained up to was like 13 miles. I did like 4 13-mile runs and then 1 6-mile run, and that was pretty much it. And I met who I did the 13-mile runs with was a girl named Allison, who I think Grant knows actually. She said she knows Grant. She runs track at the University of Florida and used to run at the University of Alabama.
No way, man.
Yeah, so they coached me up.
Oh, wow.
And helped me out a little bit. And then I went and ran the marathon in 4 hours. And then about a week later, I was sitting down and I was like, well, now what? And then I came across an Instagram reel that was like, oh, anyone can run a 50-mile race. They're pretty easy. And I was like, 1 a.m. and I was like, oh, I guess I'll sign up. So signed up for it. And then when I told Allison and they're the track friends that I've made with them, they thought I was like completely crazy. Because most of the track people I find out that have never really ran over like 15 miles. And so that was just yeah, an experience with them. And then I just ran a 50K on the Friday before Easter, and then that was pretty much it. And I was running with my buddy. Well, here's my one of my roommates decided to run a marathon in April after I ran mine, but he trained every day for 3 months. And so I was training with him for the 50-mile, but I was just doing his marathon training. And then, yeah, the 50-miler came, and yeah, somehow I got through it. I feel like I blacked out. It was so brutal. It was so brutal. It was so hot. The sand was terrible. But about mile 18, I met Jamie Saunders, who is pretty big in the community, is what I hear. And I went and kind of ran the rest with her. She was doing the 100, so ran her the next 30 miles with her. And yeah, and got through it somehow.
Well, that's a good person to run with because she'll just tell you, you're looking great. You're doing well.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's nothing but positivity from Jamie.
I know. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
It's such a calm and peaceful tone.
Yeah. Yeah. Right when I'm starting to get in my head at mile 18, I'm like, I think that was, or when does the burn start? Mile 16?
It's like 18-ish or something
18,
like that.
yeah. So it's right
Yeah,
before
between
then.
17 and 18. Yeah.
And I have no idea about this because I've never really done trail running. I didn't really know this was a trail running race. And so it was just rough. You're going up the hills. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm in my New Balance shoes, and yeah, the burn comes and I'm like, what is this? Like, this was I did not think. Yeah, I just thought it was going to be a lot smoother path than the burn. But yeah, she walked the whole 5 miles there with me. Kept telling me it was 2.5 miles to make me feel better. I was like, oh, only 2 miles won't be that bad. But somehow, yeah, she kept pushing me, so it was good.
That's the fun part with ultra. You just have to lie to people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just around the corner. It's just around the
It's just
corner.
around the corner.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't talking about this corner. I was talking about the next
Is the
corner.
next corner.
Yeah.
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 Don't worry, Florida's flat. There are no hills.
Yeah. It just felt like a false summit. I do all the 14ers I've done, you get up there and you're like so close, and then you realize you have another like 800 feet or whatever of elevation, and it sucks. And it felt like that with every corner of the burn.
Well, it's like the incline, the Manitou incline. You get up, you're
Oh,
almost
yeah.
there, but then
Yeah.
there's that one more section.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was the feeling. And the other feeling was I was excited to get to every aid station, and she would let me stay 3 minutes and be like, "Hey, you're losing time. We gotta go." So, yeah.
Yeah, the burn was definitely a section. Like, even though I remember running it from last year, like it broke me in a different way this year, which was kind of interesting to me because I knew what to expect, and I did better in some senses this go around. But I was dealing with a lot of stomach issues going into it, so I wasn't able to really drink a whole lot of water in that section. So I think that played a big part of it. But I yeah, my body and my brain were going, okay, we're done now. When I got to the 200 day station, but I wasn't there to quit.
It was hot, and I got off course there somehow because I was like, this was supposed to be 5.7 miles, and it somehow I turned this into 9. I was running with another guy, and we just missed it. Like we were just talking, we were looking down, we were like, just talking about how hot it was. It was blinding. We get off course. We went off course like I don't know. Ended up being like 2.5 miles or something stupid. That part was just brutal.
It's worse when you go off course and you come back and you're like, well, there's the flag.
Oh no, it was a sign. I wish I could have said
Oh,
I
it was a
missed
sign.
a flag. I missed a freaking sign.
It says, "Don't turn in the woods here, stupid." Like, oh,
yeah, it's right here, you dumbass.
yeah. Well, it's like
I was
last
like,
year.
that's okay.
Last year when I was doing the 50, the section where you come off of that bike path and then you head up that really short incline to your right, like after you go under the bridge, when you're heading into the woods. I was running with a guy last year, and there's a lady running with us as well, but she was slightly ahead. She started going left, down the bike path.
Oh yeah.
And we had to, like, she had her headphones in, so we're like, me and the other guys had to stop, and we're like yelling at the top of our lungs at her, like, that she was going the wrong way, because you end up on that way when you're coming back, passing that same exact spot. But I didn't want her to get all the way down to the aid station to figure out that she was, like 8 miles off course or something.
Oh, that would have sucked.
Yeah, the berm was pretty brutal for me too. I guess maybe for a little bit of a different reason. I was the whole time coming up to the berm, I was averaging my splits pretty much perfectly. I was sitting at 7:26 pace, and like I was hitting every single mile right at above or below that. And when I came into the berm, I obviously knew that I wasn't going to keep pace. Like I wasn't going to hit my times, but I just made it about maintaining effort. So it was like, I know when I go through this berm, I'm going to slow down, but I'm going to try and keep my effort at the same percentage as when I was running before. So for me, like it was like, I don't know, probably 8:30 to 9:30 minute miles, like going through that section. And it really like jacked me up. And I think the reason for that was just because of how much it tweaked your stabilizers. And, I was trying to stay in the tire tracks because it was a little more padded and I didn't want to sink. But I feel like I almost shot myself in the foot because you're constantly fighting ankle stability when you rock in those divots. And what happened coming out of the berm for me is, funny enough, my quads were absolutely destroyed. And it almost sounds counterintuitive because, the quads go usually when it's high impact. But for me, I think my stabilizers were just so blown that my quads were like having to compensate. So for a long time, my quads were just jacked. And then, I think that sort of set the tone for me to cramp up later. But yeah, the berm was tough.
Yeah, that's what I think is interesting. I mean, Scott, I know you've been out there the first time, but did y'all have any idea what it was actually going to be like out there?
No, I did not. I mean, I tried to prepare. There was like a whole race file and stuff, and I heard about it, but like I had no idea what was. I didn't know what was about to come. So like I get done. I was feeling pretty good at mile 18. My girlfriend was with me. She was my crew, and I get to the aid station. She was waiting on me. And I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good. Like, I'm not gonna. She's like, you want to sit down? I'm like, no, I don't want to sit. My thing was, I didn't want to sit till like the turnaround point. I was like, I'm not gonna sit. Like, I was allowing myself like 3 to 5 minutes. And she was like, I keep hearing everybody say like, this is like the hottest section. This is gonna be pretty hot. You sure? Like, and then I get out there and I was like, what is this? What am I right now? I was like, this is not a trail. And I couldn't, like you're saying, Grant, I couldn't find a place to run. I didn't know. Like I tried your method, then I was like, no, I need to try to find an outside. Then there really wasn't, and I'm like, let me run in the middle. And I just felt like it didn't matter where I went. And for me, it was definitely ankles. Like it was just like feet and ankles the whole time. And then of course got off course. So when I finally made it to the next aid station, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna sit down here, and then we kind of had a plan. My girlfriend and I planned out this is what I was going to do at each spot. And I was like, well, that took longer than I thought. So I'm going to have to adjust some of my plan here, like change my shoes out. But I had no idea it was going to be like that.
I had a little bit of an idea, honestly. I had before the race, I had looked up on YouTube like race footage for Skunk Ape,
Smart.
and I found some, old videos, like really really shaky, grainy videos that had about like 50 to 150 views, give or take, on YouTube, of just like people, like maybe three people that had documented the whole race, at least the 50. And across those three videos, I sort of got a semblance of what it would look like, from audio, people saying it was like loose beach sand, and then also a couple clips where I saw that it was going to be pretty divotty. So I had a little bit of an idea. So going into it, I know there's an aid station right before and an aid station after. With my crew, I had devised a plan because I was running in nylon plated shoes the first 18 miles. I was like, I'm going to switch into speed goats for the sand. And then after the sand, we're going to do a full shoe switch. So we're going to wash my feet, we're going to change my socks, and we're going to throw back on like a hybrid plated shoe. But for this section, we're just going to rock with, low drop, high cushion, slower shoes that should be able to help with the stability a little bit. So I knew going into it a little bit, at least in my strategy, what was out there.
That was smart.
I had no idea what the burn was until I was in it with the 100-mile crew, and I kept saying, like, once we get done, and then we finally finish, and I'm like, wow, I'm never gonna have to do that again. And they're all like, yeah, we got to do it one more time tonight. And that was kind of the story of running with them. Oh, we're 60% of the way. Yeah, we're only 30%. So, but yeah, it was an experience. I'll just say that. Yeah.
Sorry. I was messing with another guy that was running with us for a little while, and we were at the aid station that John Reed and his family were doing there. Was at Ross Prairie, I think, right before the berm. And the one guy was like, he was talking to his friend. He said something about, I think I heard the next section's going to be a little warm. So I just kind of looked at him. I was like, well, enjoy running Satan's oven. He went, what?
I mean, that is a big part of this race too, because I mean, when it starts, you're in the 60s. Once you get to that like mile 10, now we're up in the kind of high 70s, and then once you get to the berm, except for Grant, because Grant's flying fast, then you're in the 80s, and then you get to as it progresses, it just gets hotter and hotter. I mean, did you kind of have a plan how you're going to plan to do your hydration, your nutrition?
Yeah, I can speak to that just a little bit. I guess going into it, I obviously knew it was going to be hot. I knew that I was going to be running, or at least, planning to run pretty quick throughout the whole thing. So I was like really trying to narrow in what I was going to do. I guess the way that I handled it was, I don't really like super cold water in my bottles. I feel like it messes with me. Like it's harder for my body to process the cold water, which can lead to some GI issues. So my water was room temperature to hot. So it was because it just got hot. That didn't start hot. But it was tough because I couldn't really use fluids to cool myself down. So I had an ice bandana that every single aid station we switched out. There were two of them, and the crew would just pack the next one and throw it on. Also, we had gotten some big like car washing sponges from Walmart that they were filling with, that they were just like soaking in ice water. So when I rolled into the aid station, they would just douse my body. Like I would just get like covered in water. I had a wristband that I always wear. And I was wearing a long sleeve, like white shirt just to like bounce the sun. And with that wristband, we were like double wrapping it around my sleeve to like lock the sleeve. And we were stuffing my sleeves with ice as well, just to like cool down on all the like high target zones where like blood vessels cluster and are close to the skin, because that's how you rotate like cold blood back into your body. And then my bucket hat, I was wearing like a white bucket hat. We were stuffing the top, and it has like tiny little pockets on the side that you can put a little ice in. So we were like stuffing the bucket hat with ice too, just to cool on all fronts, sort of.
Damn, I'm taking notes. You had it all planned out. That's cool. I had a hydration strategy. I mean, like I said, I did a self-supported 50K and 60K. just on my own, and like went out to the trails by where I live and just like mapped it out where I would come back to my car like twice and had a cooler. But the thing that always got me was the heat. I was researching everything. I did not have an ice bandana, but I have one now. But I didn't have one on the Skunk Ape. But I found these like cooling towels. It's funny on some of the pictures. Like I just stuck it on my head underneath my hat. It's like flowing behind me because they're huge. But I like soaked them in ice, and then my girlfriend would hand them to me. I put like one on my neck, and it was long, so they like draped down the front of me, and then like I'd stuff one in my hat. That lasted pretty well, and then like after that section of the berm, I had a vest, nothing fancy, something from Amazon. I just bought a better one that holds more water and like a bladder, but I had like two bottles with me every time, and I had it all mapped out. But I was like, I need something else. So then I ended up filling like a third bottle that I carried. It was just nothing but ice, so it would melt, and I would just like pour it on myself, and I'd get like halfway through. Because I will say the nice thing about this event, there was an aid station pretty much every 6 to 7 miles. So I was like, I know I can make it with this bottle of ice and like pouring it on myself, keeping myself cool before I get to the next one. Because when I did my self-supported stuff, I went like 22 miles before coming back to my car, and then went out another 15. So I was used to going a lot farther before coming back to something. So just carrying a lot more stuff. So I appreciated that I didn't have as far to go before I could just like replenish everything.
I guess quick note on that too. You bring up a good point with the bottles. The aid stations being closer was a massive, I don't know, massive advantage
Yeah.
because running it, I only carried one handheld bottle. That was it. I didn't have like a vest. I didn't have any type of literage or storage. I just had a single bottle that was
Nice.
about 20 ounces, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
20-ounce bottle. And that's all I had in between aid stations, which, at the first half of the race was really amazing. Because, I was on pace. So most of the time in between aid stations, I wasn't even fully draining, the bottle. Like I didn't need to, cause I was just trying to take one in an hour. And that bottle had about 1,000 milligrams of sodium and, no carbs in it. I was just taking gels on the side of the water for carbs. I wasn't really taking in drink mix. And, it worked out great. But then on the back half, I was going so much slower than I was supposed to. Like my goal range was pretty blown out. So it became a little bit of a liability where, it just got so hot and I was trying to take a little more in and moving slower than I thought. So, it became a little bit harder, but, I was able to operate just off one handheld bottle the whole time and I never really took on a second. So,
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I had a vest and I had two bottles in my vest. I do a carb drink mix, and I don't do as much sodium. So I'm hypoglycemic. So I have low blood sugar. Found out in first grade. I passed out. So I've struggled with that my whole life, and I have blood sugar issues. So I've I was taking in a bunch of carbs. I was doing like 75 grams of carbs in between each aid station, liquid. And just like most of my stuff was liquid, and I'd get to an aid station and do like a banana or a Rice Krispie or something. Um, but I was drinking. Like I was forcing myself. I drank two bottles in between each aid station, and then now that I'm 37, I peed like 9 times, so that also cuts into your time.
Shane, I didn't pee one time.
Dude, I
And
peed 9 times.
that
yeah, and
is a feeling issue.
Yeah, you need to pee. You need to
well,
drink
I think
more.
that was, I mean, I had no plan for the hydration. I just had like a liter backpack with one of those, um, yeah, just like one of those blue Camelback. I don't know what they're called, but like the hose and drink water out of it. And
Oh yeah, the bladder, yeah.
the bladder. Yeah, that was pretty much it in my backpack. Um, and I just figured I would drink when I was thirsty and then refill it every now and then. Yeah, Grant, you really had it down with all the cooling stuff. I really, really got to step up my game a little bit.
Yeah, that was smart stuff, Grant. I experienced dehydration when I was doing triathlon training. I went for a 30-mile bike ride and I got dehydrated. And it's hard to describe the feeling that happened in my hamstrings and my glutes. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't move. And I had 2 miles to go before I got home.
Oh,
And
geez.
it was terrifying. It was in the summer because I started all this in April of 2024 with the triathlon stuff, and it was like June or July, and it was middle of the day, and I took like one water bottle because I had no idea. And ever since then, I've been like, no, I got it because it was bad. I didn't think I couldn't walk. I was like, I'm not gonna make it home. I'm in trouble. So now I just like and like I said, I had it down. So I peed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I refilled my water or like probably twice. So I probably drink like 3 or 4 liters. But yeah, I didn't pee until I got to Texas Roadhouse.
I
Damn.
guess, Robbie, to your point, man, I peed once early in the race and
Okay.
then never again, dude. And not a good thing. Like very, very much a bad thing. Um, because I don't know, like I thought my I thought my hydration strategy was good, but for the back 30 miles, my legs were just locking up and I was fighting like active cramps for the back 30. And a funny like anecdote, which was super scary at the time because I knew I was sort of pushing on course record pace. You know how towards the end of the race, when you're crossing back over all those street crossings, it's like
Yeah.
the trail will open up and then you hit that little uphill, like the tiny little climb onto the street, and then you drop back down into the woods.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I lost my footing on one of those. This was about, I don't know, 2 miles, 2.5 miles away from the finish. I missed my footing and I fell just like to the side. And when I hit the ground in the gravel, like I landed on my face, when I hit the ground, both of my legs fully locked up from hamstring to foot. Um, like fully, like they were just fully two by
Jeez.
fours. And I tried to like get back up and I like
Jeez.
fell back down like on my face. Like I couldn't support my body weight. So I just like laid there for a second thinking that it was over. Um,
Dude.
but I sort of just like crawled up onto like the incline towards the street. I'm sort of glad no one stopped thinking I was dying or something. But I sort of climbed onto the incline onto the street and used that elevation to like prop myself back onto my legs. Um, and then I just kept going. um, but that was super scary. That was really scary for a little bit.
I fell there too. That's crazy, Grant. I fell twice. I fell at mile like 49 and 52. And I know that's what you're talking about. I fell there. That was like my second fall. And I was like, damn it, I just want to finish this thing. And I felt like I was so close to the end. And the first time I fell, I got back up really quick and kept going. But that time I fell, I had a hard time getting back up too. I did not have your experience. But yeah, I sat there for a minute and was like, okay, just get up, finish this thing.
That's crazy, Grant. Yeah, that would definitely scare me to death. I'm laying there crawling up. That's wild.
Yeah, because I was so close on the pace.
Yeah.
And it was tough because I was already really far off like my goal for the time, which I know like sounds like, oh, what? Like that's crazy. But I was like pretty far off my goal. So like the course record break I was like holding on to as like my measure of success for the race. I was like,
Yeah.
if I don't break that, like I sort of just sacrificed my entire crew for coming here. Like I was like, that was my mindset. I was like, because that was like the last goal that I wanted to hold on to. So when I fell, I was just and it like locked up. I was like, no, no, no. Like I was
Yeah.
literally talking out loud. I was like, no, 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 no. Like I was just yelling because I was like for a second there I thought like it was cooked. But yeah,
Grant,
risky 11 section.
I'll say the only time I I'll say wanted to crawl was at was right before the finish because I knew I go to the University of Florida and some of my buddies drove down to watch me finish. And I was like, how funny would it be if I started crawling around the turn to the finish line?
That's
So that was
hilarious.
the
That's a
only
very
time
Gator
I
thing to
was
do.
like, I need to crawl right now. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but for me, the berm was not the hardest part. Like the hardest part for me was that super long section on paved trail.
Yeah.
After the turnaround, coming back, it was
Yeah.
just the worst. Those rolling hills on paved trail, because the paved trail was just jacking me up.
It was
Um,
13 miles, I think.
yeah, it was seriously like like a whole half marathon on paved trail, and
Yeah.
man, I hated that section so much because it was
Yep.
so exposed. It
It
was
was so
so
hot.
hot. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so hot, so exposed. Like that, all that. I know, like you're saying, all the strategy with the ice and stuff was great, but that ice feeling lasted for maybe like a mile, and then I
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
hot again. Like that was the worst part for me. I don't know if you guys had the same experience.
Oh yeah, and I slowed considerably there. It was just so hot. I agree.
For me, by the time I got there, my system was kind of just shot in a bunch of different ways. You're talking about like your time goals and stuff. I had two main goals with the race. Number one was to get my first 50-mile finish. Because I've been chasing that for a while. But I had a time goal. My goal for me, which was slow, I wanted to go sub 20, and I was actually on pace for probably the first 30 something miles. I was actually going to go sub probably 18, um, which again I know is not fast, but for me it was. But you know, system issues started popping up between the stomach, and then I had a bunch of neuro issues popping up and all that. So I was sitting at one of the aid stations. I think it was actually after the berm, as a matter of fact, and I was just sitting there, kind of like mentally reevaluating, like, is this time goal really sustainable? For how much longer can I sustain it? You know what I mean? You know, because I'm like, if I keep pushing it, if I try to push it the entire time, I may end up sacrificing my you know ultimate goal of actually finishing it this time. And towards the end of the race, I got like on the way back, I had to just focus on being steady, and one of you guys mentioned about just focusing on effort more than the numbers per se. Otherwise, I wouldn't have finished. You know, my body wanted to shut down.
That's awesome, Scott. That's really good, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm so far from being fast. It's not even funny, but you know, I'm definitely stubborn. I don't like to fail, and I definitely don't quit. I have my own wins, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and 21 hours is no joke to be on your feet.
For real.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I was disappointed when I saw the time, like in one sense, but I very quickly had to remind myself, like, hey, you got to do this. You got to finally, attain one of your goals that you've been chasing for a while. Suck it up, you know. So it was definitely a lot, like, there's a point when, with like, I've noticed with the ultra running, scene, like, I forget which one of you guys mentioned about, like, just the solace, that just that alone time, how that it's really healing, in a sense. You don't get that from like the road races and stuff really at all. Um, but, sometimes the hardest thing to break is, the hold that your brain can start to get a hold of you with, but if you can manage that, then you kind of, yeah, you got a real shot.
Scott, was there any like moments where you wanted to quit, and like what did you do in those moments? Because for me, at like I was walking the last 6 from the aid station to the last one, and then at mile 3, I finally turned on my headphones and turned on Kanye West, and that's when I started to run again. And so that's when I was just, I mean, it was like Stronger came on, and I was like, oh, this is my jam. I'm screaming in the middle of the woods. But yeah, that was a moment
Yeah.
where I was like, dang, I really want to quit. And then, yeah. So did you have any of those?
I actually had quite a few of them. I never turned my music on the entire race, which kind of surprised me because I had every intention of turning, it on. But, you know, for me, like, one of my big things is like remembering my why, you know, because, yeah, I run for a small charity, and, I have my own goals that I'm trying to reach. It's for me, running, especially ultra trail running, is just very therapeutic, in a lot of ways. And every time, I would start getting in my head, which included, like, one of the worst times was after the burn when I sat down. I was kind of getting a little bit emotional because I knew that my body was starting to, you know, for lack of a better way to phrase it, betray me, and some of my strategy was coming unraveled a little bit, and I kind of had to just let myself feel that, and then go, all right, but that's not what is going to happen for the rest of this race. Lock back in, remember why you're out here. Remember that you get to do this, and just keep chasing, that goal. Keep the goal in, the goal of finishing in front of you, and stay out of your own way. And I kind of had to just like mentally talk myself through that and just keep on going. My my mindset kind of was, all right, I'm just going to get to the next aid station. I'm going to get something to eat, see my crew, see the aid station people. It's always helpful, and I just have to keep moving. I have to keep going. Quitting is not an option. Failure is not an option this time, and that's pretty much what I had to do each time.
That's awesome. The aid
Dude,
stations,
Scott, that's sick, man.
yeah,
Awesome. Good work.
yeah, great work. The aid stations, they were so positive as well.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah, it
it.
was a great
Um,
it was a great goal every time. Like, let me just get to the next aid station.
What about you, Robbie? What was your main driving force out there keeping you moving?
Yeah, I would say just like entering into suffering. Just I kind of been running for my mom, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2019. So I've been kind of caretaking for her for the past 7 years. And so really running for her and running for, yeah, just to enter into that suffering with her, right? And because that's kind of where you find out who you are, is in those moments of like deep, wanting to quit, sitting there with nothing left and giving it your all.
yeah,
That was my motivation, but it was, yeah. I mean, the Kanye West was really my pushing force,
What
I'll
gets you
say.
going?
And Joe, I'll say that every time I wanted to quit, I thought about that plaque, and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, that's mine, and then I would keep going.
Well, I think like for a lot of these ultras, I mean, like out at age 9, the 2 year I've DNF'd twice and I finished twice. The 2 times I have finished, I think it's about the same tree. I had sat down, threw all my crap off, like screw this, screw that. Obviously, more colorful language, but I was like, I am done with this. I hate this. I had my little pity party, and then I put my stuff back on, and off I went. But
Yeah.
once I had that pity party, I was like, all right, cool. We had the pity party. Now we got to go finish.
Yeah. I'll say, Grant, as well, for me, when I would throw a pity party, it was always next to the 100-milers, and they would always be like, all right, bro, like, we're running double you, like, shut up. And
It's
I was
hard to
like, okay.
complain. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Makes
like,
it
got
hard to
it.
complain.
Yeah. 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 It was just so funny because I finished and they're like, all right, time to go back out there.
Well, that's the great part with this sport too, because there's so many different perspectives, outlooks, and backgrounds.
Yeah. 100%.
yep,
Yeah, talking about, I guess, on my side, in that for that same vein of like what kept me moving, I feel like it was interesting because for the first time I was approaching an ultra in a more fearless way where I wasn't worried about the distance at all. I didn't have any feeling of doubt that I could, complete the distance just fine. It was solely about time for me, which I feel like was, such a new experience to be out there, and my goals to not be completion, but my goal to be like a specific time. For me going into the race, my goal was 7 to 8 hours in that range. Like obviously my main goal was to hit around 7 hours and 15 minutes. Like that was my goal time. Um, and, it really started falling apart on me out there. And I feel like it made me upset less at myself. Like I feel like previously in ultras, when I was hurting and stuff like that, it was more of a internal dialogue of, you know, you promise this to yourself, like you have to finish this for yourself, like you have to, I don't know, put that out there. But when it becomes less about a question of completion and more a question of like time, instead, like my feelings were, I don't know, sort of exported to my crew. Like when I started falling off my time and I came in, I started, I don't know, questioning more about whether I was properly respecting the sacrifice that my crew put in to show up. Because I was like, I have a goal in mind. Is sacrificing my goal, sacrificing like their commitment, right? And the effort that they put in to be here for this and to like support me for that goal. So my accountability was less internal and more my crew.
That's
When,
cool.
I was at the turnaround point, my stomach was so messed up. So messed up. I was feeling really sick. I didn't really know why. And I guess the one thing for me is, I didn't want to show weakness in front of my crew. So once I left the aid station, it was funny. I turned one corner and then I just started projectile vomiting like all over the place. Um, and then I kept moving, but it was like important for me in that moment to not like break down with the crew. And then when it came time later, when I was pushing against course record pace, it strictly became about making sure that I respected the effort others put in for me. Right. And it's like I held so true to like a certain pace that my girlfriend had told me at the last aid station. She's like, you need to average I think it was 11:15. Like you need to average 11:15 for all the rest of these miles, right? She's like, you can do it, like you can lock in and you can complete this. And in my mind originally it was, I was almost angry. I was like, lock in, it's not a question about locking in, like it's just my physical ability. But once I just shed that and I like dropped the anger and I made it like a very personal challenge to respect their belief in me, it was so empowering, right? Because I wanted to complete that goal and I wanted to like create a moment that we could all share, because it was so important for me to have like all these first timers being like exposed to a trail race. It was so important for me to give them a good experience. And I was like, we got to complete a goal together and I have to do this not just for myself, but for them. So I feel like it was a very interesting perspective shift, that I was experiencing throughout the race.
Grant, I want to say that's awesome. Like how they were like that feeling of like not letting them down. And I kind of want to turn that where my roommates, all of them were betting on me. They like were placing bets on each other that I wouldn't finish. So that was a big driving factor
What?
in the back of the head. Um, and so I was like, every time I'd be like, oh, I love it. Like, yeah. So anyway, it was kind of the opposite of them being like, you're not going to be able to finish. Like you're crazy just signing up for a 50. So
Yeah, one of my big motivating factors as well. Like when you're talking about respecting the crew, like you know, I completely get that. It's a really cool perspective as well. One of my crew this year was actually my daughter. Um, she helped out a lot for the majority of the day. She bonked out at the end of the day and crashed. But it was a long day and an early day for her too. But she ran like a 4 mile and change, whatever that one section was, um, earlier on in the race. And one of the things, like I told you before, is like my why is very important to me. Whenever I do anything, and one of the things that I've been really, really, striving as a dad is to show my daughter that you can do hard things, you get to do hard things, and why you do it is bigger than you. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to show her that, hey, it's okay to hurt, it's okay to struggle, it's not okay to quit just because it's hard. Every time you think you have it rough, look at somebody else that has it, a lot worse than you, and just suck it up and keep going. You get to try hard things. And it's okay to struggle. It's okay to fail sometimes, but fail forward. Keep trying to reach your goals. Oh, it says
Yeah,
I'm still
sure.
connected.
You're gonna have to beat that guy that beat the course record.
Myself.
Yeah, yourself.
Yeah.
It gotta
No,
be you.
100%. I want to go under that course record by a couple hours next time.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy goal. I think it's so cool. I mean, you crushed it.
we
I
did.
don't know. It sounds like fun.
We did have 2 people this year do the berm twice
Oh,
in the 50 mile.
yeah.
What?
Fortunately, I got off the berm, but I was in no man's land.
You know what I
with
did
some other
do?
dude.
I guess an interesting note on that. When I finished the berm, when I came around, I saw that sign and it said aid and it pointed to the left, right? And obviously that sign was supposed to be for the people on the outbound that like hadn't done the berm yet. But I thought it was saying aid, like, okay, going to the next aid station. So I started to run that way. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think so. So I turned around and there was another dude right there. And I was like, hey, like, we're just going this way, right? And he's like, yep, just following it. And then I'm like, wait a second, someone should not be this close behind me. So I asked him, like, you just did the berm? Because I was like, I didn't even know where I was in position to everyone else. And he's like, no, not yet. So I was like, yep, not this way. And
Oh,
I went the other way. But it was close. It was a close call.
nice. Yeah, good on you.
Yeah, I'll probably throw Ross Prairie on the top of that because sometimes those spots do get tricky if you get because they're definitely facing as the course flows, but if you get turned around, then you can get a little confused.
Yeah, and I think having the course on your watch is so important. Like I had it on my watch and I got a beep shortly after, like right when I was about to turn around anyway, and it told me I was going the wrong way. So I feel like it's so valuable to have it on your watch.
Yeah, I did not. I learned a lot doing the 50 miler, and I'm been doing a lot more prep for this 100. And yeah, Grant, like I've been seeing a lot of things about downloading the route, putting it on there, and it was something I hadn't done before. I was like, nah, I'll be fine. I'm sure it's like marked, but
Back.
I realize now it's pretty valuable.
Scott, you're back.
Yep, lost connection.
I know, and you were in a great part of your story.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know what point you guys stopped hearing me.
You had said that it was becoming very important for you to, with your daughter there, make sure that she saw the value in doing hard things and being able to struggle but not quit. I think that's where you were at.
Yeah, like that's something that I've been working with her on for years. Like she sees like my struggles with health issues and just things like that. But it's super important for me as a dad just to show her that we get to try hard things. We get to do these. Try these awesome challenges. It is okay to fail, but if you're going to fail forward, learn from it. Don't make the same mistakes, and just remember to see the gratitude, like retain that gratitude, see the value in what you're doing and the different blessings that you get from just the community, the environment, all of that. Just like it's okay to struggle, but just don't stop trying. And it was really cool too. Around mile 6 or so, we me and the two guys I was running with, we caught up to a runner that was cramping up really bad, and he was brand new. He's brand new, first ultra attempt, first 50-mile attempt, and he didn't really know what he was doing. I don't claim to know what I'm doing either, but you know what I mean. Like so, it was just kind of cool to be able to, not be the newest guy in the pack, be able to share, some of the stuff I had with me, and like supply wise, some electrolyte stuff, and all that, but also just remind him, hey, it's okay, just settle down, settle into your pace, find what works for you strategy wise, and just do it.
I have a question off this, Scott, because I think I heard about this from my crew. They said there was this guy that rolled into the aid station and he asked to quit. He's like, I really want to drop out here, but they told him that he couldn't drop out at that aid station. He had nothing. Like he literally had nothing, no hydration, no anything. And then at the aid station, apparently, this is my crew passing on the story. They said that they handed him like a jug of water, like literally like a jug, like a gallon jug that you get from the store. They handed it to him, and then he just like headed off walking like towards the next one, holding this jug, and that's all he had.
I was just about to ask Scott if it was the guy with just a jug, because I remember
You saw the guy with the jug?
it was at the turnaround, and I was at like mile 34, and he was coming out. He was still going out, and I
Oh,
passed him, and this guy, and he's walking around with with a jug of water, and I'm like, and at that point it was empty, and I'm like, this poor
oh
guy.
no.
I'm like, this poor guy, and I really, oh man. And Jamie Thunders, you got this, you're gonna do great.
Yeah, he really wanted to quit. I wanted to hear the story on that guy because, my crew had obviously told me that happened, but I didn't have any details.
Yeah,
No,
I
it
saw
wasn't
him.
it wasn't the same guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh dang. No, but
More
that
than
was,
one. No,
that was
Jug
crazy.
guy.
Speaking of
I wonder what happened to
strategy,
that guy.
I know
Yeah,
there
no.
was a kid with a jug of water, but there was a different guy that also was given a jug of water as well.
What?
Wait, yeah,
Jeez.
I saw a kid. He was probably 21 or 19 around there.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy that I'm talking about.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can't remember.
Maybe
I
it's the
just remember like
Matrix.
they're like, oh, dude, but you're still in the game. Like you're not that bad. Just take this water with you.
Yeah,
Right.
he like fully wanted to, like, he asked, he's like, "Can I please drop at this aid station?" But he wasn't able to, so yeah, I guess he was just going to continue on to the next one.
You can drop wherever you want, really, but the aid station people out there, they're gonna try to convince you to go one more.
Yeah,
Yep,
I'll
just
say
get to the
Grant.
next one.
I to go back all the way to the beginning, to your story about your allergic reaction. I'm allergic to gelatin, and I took an ibuprofen because my knee was hurting on mile 3, and it was coated in gelatin. So mile 3, I'm throwing up this gelatin, trying to get out of my system. My throat's closing. And I finally get to the aid station. I sit down for like 10, 15 minutes. But the allergic reaction on the trail is top 5 worst experiences. You can't breathe right. You're trying to keep moving.
Dude, I I can't even describe to you. So I'm allergic to peanuts. That's my allergy, but I had been, so this is Fall Creek 50. This is my first 50 miler. Obviously, I was going to I was going for completion, but then again, I led the race for the first 30 miles. So like, what was I really doing? I don't know. Um, I just sort of was going from the seat of my pants. Like I was just like, let's go. And man, it was so cold. Like the warmest it got. This is in November in Tennessee, and it was a really cold day for some reason, and it was spitting rain. And the warmest it got was about like 35 degrees. And that was in the middle of the day. We're getting towards the night, and the whole race I had been eating like solid food, warm food, and it had been these little quesadillas. Right, and the aid stations were all making these little quesadillas where they would just literally make a small quesadilla, chop it into 4 pieces, and just give it to you, right? And I was eating those, and it was working so great. Like, it was just so awesome, and I was loving it. They were warm. They gave me everything I needed, on top of my nutrition and other stuff I was taking. And I get to this other aid station, and there's a little thing where, because in this race, it was a little more backcountry where you had to go up to certain waypoints and you had to punch something to prove that you had been there, right? Similar to checking into regular aid stations, they had like physical ones too, where you had to like physically punch things. Um, and it was half a mile up this hill and half a mile back, and you hit the aid station. The aid station's just sitting at the bottom of the hill. And I hit the aid station when I first get there, and I grab the quesadilla, just normal quesadilla. I eat it, and I'm headed up, and I'm just talking to this guy, and I start to get like super itchy. My eyes start to water, my lips start to swell up, and I'm telling this guy, I'm like, something is wrong. Like I'm really getting messed up here. So by the time I got back down to the aid station, I was really like you said, my throat was starting to close up a little bit. Everything was just starting to go wrong, and I asked him, like, hey, I've been eating these quesadillas the whole time, no problem. I have a peanut allergy. Apparently, at that aid station, they'd been making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and also quesadillas, and they used the exact same knife to cut both of them.
Ugh,
So they were
jeez.
Ay,
super
ay, ay.
cross contaminated. And I was just like, oh no. And the lady was freaking out because obviously, they're there to support, and, you know, they she very much felt like it was her fault. So she's like hysterically crying, and she like walks away. And then the guy, he calls the medic. The medic comes, and, he learned about my allergy. And then he said that he wasn't the level of medic in the state of Tennessee to administer me Benadryl.
What?
Oh my.
So I was like, "Why are you here?" Like, I was just like, what can you do then if you can't just give me Benadryl?"
Yeah.
So
Does
then
that
the
mean he
lady's
didn't
like,
have
"I
the
think I
ability to
have
spell it?
no, yeah, I don't know. But the lady then is like, I think I might have some in my car. So she goes to her car. She's just throwing stuff out of her car. Like I'm just sitting there watching this. She's like throwing stuff out of her car, freaking out because again, she's like internalizing that it's her fault. And the medic is like, you need to finish the race. At this point, I'm at like mile 48 because I had gone a bunch off course. It was like mile 44 in all honesty. Um, but I was like, I'm not going, I'm not leaving the race. And then I told him, I was like, I'm going to sit here throughout my whole reaction cycle. And if at any point, like, I can't verbally tell you that I'm not like I don't want an ambulance, then, I'll quit the race and you can take me and get me on an ambulance. So I sat there for an hour and 30 to like an hour and 45 minutes. Night fell, it got super cold, and my entire legs fully locked up. And I was next to a space heater. So like my whole body's warming up, like real warm. And then I have to go from there. So yeah, it was hell, man. It was hell itself.
But Grant, if you took that Benadryl, the drowsiness would kick in, and I think you might pass out and fall asleep on the course. That would also.
You know what's funny, dude?
Yeah.
I get hyper off Benadryl.
No.
I don't know why, but Benadryl, if I take it, like I go off the walls, man. Like I'm like super hyper off Benadryl.
That's crazy because anytime I take it, I'm like I can't drive. I fall asleep so fast. It's like it's terrible.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. No, I don't know what it is, but Benadryl has a weird reaction for me.
Yeah, and then if I don't sleep and I stay up, I start hallucinating and I see the the Hat Man.
What?
Have you guys ever heard of this? The Hat Man?
No.
What the?
So if you like overdose on Benadryl or like take too much and you like stay up on it, you'll start hallucinating and see everyone has the same experience of seeing the Hat Man. Yeah, you'll have to look it up, but it just happens to me
I'll
if I
look it
take
up.
my normal dose like to stop my reaction and I stay awake.
Like Slender
Yeah.
Man?
No, it's just a dark figure with just this giant hat. And
That
he's just
sounds like the Slender Man to me.
and he's
If I
always
saw
like
that out on the trail, I would
Yeah,
lose it.
you lose
What
your
the heck?
shit.
I'd lose my mind out there. But anytime it's really like at nighttime more. During the day, like I don't know. I've seen him like once during the day, but it's more like I love how I'm like he's a real guy, but he's not. But it's like nighttime. I take it before bed, and if I wake up or something, it's like a figure running at you, and he has a
That's
hat on,
crazy.
and
I've
then you like close
never
your eyes and you wake
heard
up.
of that.
Oh yeah,
What the heck?
you have to look up
That might
Benadryl
actually make
Hat
me
Man.
fast for a change.
Yeah, yeah. No, you
It's
have
chasing
to
you.
look it up. The Benadryl Hat Man.
I'll look it up. I can't take it. I take like half of one and I'm knocked out.
I know.
So
Yeah,
I
they
just
make
like
you
never
pass out.
take it. Yeah,
I don't know
Um,
why
that's
it makes
yeah.
me hyper, man. Maybe I am the Hat Man.
Yeah, I know you are, Grant. You are.
That
Anyway,
would explain things.
one thing I wanted to ask you guys about though was I don't have a Garmin, so I'm using the Strava app
That's funny.
just on
Oh
my phone,
gosh.
and it said, well, I just like tucked it away, and it said I ran 60 miles.
Oh yeah, the Strava app gets pretty incorrect.
And so I'm listening, and it's like mile 8 completed,
Come on.
5:42 mile pace. I'm like, let's go, I'm cooking. No, no, but I'm like, something's off. Yeah.
Yeah, I have so I was using like a basic Apple Watch, and then when I started training for this, I was like, oh, obviously I need something with more battery. So I got the Apple Watch Ultra 3.
Okay.
That seems to work pretty good, but I realized I have to go on low power mode or low battery mode because it runs out of battery. But on low power mode, it does fine. I have enough battery. But yeah, I upgraded to that probably a month before the 50 miler, the Skunk Ape.
Yeah, I think
I'm
you got a Garmin, Grant?
Yeah, I'm a big Garmin user. I have a Forerunner 955 Solar. That has about 40 hours of GPS activity life. So it's
Nice.
like if you're in a run activity, you can be going for 40 hours. The reason I got that one is because the cutoff for that 100-mile DNF was exactly 40 hours. So I was like, this is perfect,
Yeah.
So I got that, and it also has solar. So if you're like out in the sun a lot, it can start like to self charge a little bit.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. That's cool.
So I'm a Garmin fan. I love the insights it can give, and like it's more function over any type of fashion, I guess. But I'm a big Garmin fan personally.
Yeah, sweet.
Allison worked for Garmin.
Oh, no way. Oh, I'll have to ask her for a free one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if she's got that kind of plug.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just got I've got a Garmin. I haven't charged it in probably 2 years though. Then other than that, I'm just using the Apple Watch on my day-to-days.
Working fine though?
Welcome back, Scott.
Scott's back.
Good grief. It's like my phone's on Benadryl.
Hey,
We thought the Hat Man got you.
that was a good callback, Scott. That was a good callback.
Got the Hat Man.
Well, he's missing a hat now.
But before we lose Scott again, kind of coming into race day. I mean, you line up at 7 a.m., you get the race speech, which really isn't much at all. But, what's going through your mind before you take off?
I wish I could show you the photo of me at the start of the race, Joe. I wish I could. I mean, I'm sitting there looking down like, what am I doing with my life? I'm just like, what? Why have I chosen this upon myself? And my girlfriend dropped me off, and I was like, why am I doing this? She was like, I don't know. Why did you sign up? And then it's like, well, I guess I'm gonna go run for 12 hours. And yeah, it was a rough start, rough feeling at the beginning.
For me,
I mean, I was excited mentally for it. I had a good time. I really did. Like I had a blast. I told myself going into it, like throughout the last couple of months, I listened to a bunch of audiobooks when I was running. And one that really stuck out to me was it's called The Art of Resilience by Ross Edgley. He's a guy that swam around the entire UK. So like he didn't touch land for like 157 days. He would just get on a boat like at night. And one of the things that he like made a rule for himself was like his crew out there on the boat and for himself, like there was no like negative talk. So even if he was like hurting and his shoulders were just killing him, like he got stung by jellyfish and like all this shit happened to him. But everybody was like kind of what we've been saying, like, oh, you look good, you look strong, you're doing good. Like, and he wouldn't allow himself to say anything. So I thought about that a lot. And this is something I look forward to. And so, like, I wore my Mickey Mouse Disney shirt. My girlfriend was with me, and I'm like, I had a goal, like, I wanted to be somewhere around 10 hours, and I hit it. And, like, even when I went off course, I was with another guy. He got really, like, into his head and I felt bad, but like I ran with him for a little bit after we made it back on course, but then I had to leave him because he just got really down. I saw like he ended up dropping from the 100 to the 50, and I think he did finish, but I told myself like just stay positive no matter what happens. Like just try to enjoy this experience. This is my first 50 miler, so I wanted to finish around that 10 hours, like I said, until like in my mind I was just like, how can I like I know it's gonna hurt, but how can I enjoy this? And I mean, I'm happy because I did. I had a really good time. Even with the berm and the suffering and the off course stuff, like looking back, I had a great time, and that's like where my mindset was going into it.
for me, like what goes through my head, like especially with like races like these, where distances that I haven't completed yet, or whatever the case may be. I feel like I deal with imposter syndrome a lot. My brain's trying to tell me that you know I don't have any right being out here. I don't fit the mold of a traditional ultra runner. All sorts of negative stuff. But I have to kind of just shut that off and remind myself that like, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Yeah, I'm gonna get tired. But you know when I get in that pain cave, instead of complaining about it and getting frustrated or wanting to give up, I'm gonna make a room there. I'm gonna put my stuff down, make a room. I'm gonna make friends with that monster, and I'm gonna become the monster if need be. I'm getting this done one way or the other.
Yeah, I guess for me, lining up, I felt pretty positive. I had a game plan, had a race strategy. I knew what pace I was going to go out at. In all honesty, I was surprised someone ran with me the first, I don't know, first couple aid stations. I was sort of expecting, like, I went into the race sort of expecting to run a lot of it or be on my own for a lot of it. So when, lining up and someone like, really taking it off with me and staying there was interesting. But yeah, I was positive. I was hyped up. It was more about just trusting the plan for me, trying to remind myself to, drink water consistently. I was like just thinking that over, just over and over, and, hugged my girlfriend and, said bye to the crew. And yeah, it was just about, it was just locking in and doing the game plan. So I felt pretty confident, a little anxious just to get out there. Like I just, really wanted to start running. But yeah, excited more than anything.
Yeah, Grant, with what you said there, I mean, taking off. Because, I mean, those first 6, 7 miles to the Lambridge aid station, I mean, that trail is still pretty flat and fast.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it was about really getting into it, I'd say. The first few miles, I put a very heavy emphasis just on revving up the engines a little bit. So I think I went out and it was more around 747 pace, maybe 750 pace. For the first 3 miles, 4 miles, and then it started dipping down to where it was very consistently around 725. And those trails, coming off the start were super flowy. And I just mean very easy to run on, very, I don't know, they were nice. They were nice. They were interesting. A lot of shade coverage. Just a really nice ambiance. Like you said, flat and fast. You can move on them. It was pretty groomed. So those first miles were awesome.
First 10 miles, the weather was great. Yeah, I agree with Grant. I mean, I was kind of hoping when we hit that section we were all talking about that was the worst, that was the pavement. I was like, man, why couldn't I be back there with the shade? I was missing those first 10 miles.
I was getting pretty in my head on the first 10, first with the allergic reaction at the start, and then it wasn't too bad, but
Oh, yeah.
just it was tough. And then I didn't meet up with Jamie or Aaron or I started running with them at mile 18, and that's when I really figured out my pace. And what they were doing was a run 4 minutes, walk 1 minute, and then walking up hills, and it really just made it so much easier. And so when I was running, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna run to that tree and then walk a little bit, and I was trying to make sure I was walking, but I really had no clue what I was doing. And so the first 10 were pretty rough, and first 18 were just in my head. I'm trying not to listen to music. I'm trying to save that for later. I'm not talking with anybody, and I'm just thinking. And so then having people in community to run it with made it so much easier.
Yeah, I'd say the first 10 to 14 were a little bit of a challenge for me. Just trying to figure out, I had a game plan going into the race, both with nutrition and hydration, but also pacing and stuff. And I was sticking to it pretty well. But I will say having people to run it with this year made a huge difference over going it totally solo last year. But yeah, just learning to be adaptable and be persistent, even when, you guys were talking about the allergic reactions and stuff. As I was dealing with my own health issues throughout the race, I kind of had to pivot from one strategy to another, but each strategy that I started using always had some of the same core or key factors, which was just keep moving, just figure it out, keep moving forward.
Yeah, because in those early miles, you pass Land Bridge, you go 49th to Ross Prairie. I mean, that's where after the Land Bridge, that's when the hills really start popping in. And then after the 49th aid station, you get the two pavement hills, and then you hop back on trail to go back to Ross Prairie, which is around 18 miles. Coming into the 18 miles, how was that stretch with all that variety?
It was pretty interesting. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was tough, but it was enjoyable at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the first 18 was very enjoyable. I liked it was mixing it up. So you kind of get hit in the face when you hit the berm because you're like, "Whoa, I was having a great time exploring all this stuff," and then there it is.
Yeah. First 18, very flowy. Nice trail. I liked that there was some climbs in there. I feel I was really excited to see that. I live in Miami, so it's, flat up the flat. There's no such thing as a hill. So, I really enjoyed having some hills. I feel like that was one of my favorite parts, just, charging up those little ascents and just bombing down a couple things. It was nice. It was a good time. Scenery was cool. I liked the surface diversity, like you said. I feel like that was fun. It was funny, there was a little bit of sand, just mixed into the trail in that section leading up to the berm. Just, here and there you'd hit a little loose patch. Which, I thought was a good little teaser for what was to come. But yeah, it was nice. It was really fun. That trail was was better than I expected.
Really quick, Joe. Unfortunately, I have to go right now. My family's asking for me to come downstairs, so I'm sorry. But I just want to
Oh,
say
man.
thank you for having me on the podcast.
Hey, real quick, give me the good, bad, and the ugly.
The good was the suffering, being able to sit in the suffering and experience that, because you gotta have lows to have highs. And so creating a low in your life just makes the highs even higher. And this was a real big low, some of those moments. The bad was the recovery, just no idea what was going on. And honestly, that was the ugly. Just, I didn't eat until 2 p.m. the next day. I couldn't, anything I put down, I would throw up. I didn't sleep at all that night. My legs hurt so bad on my knees that I got probably 30 minutes of sleep just laying in bed. And I've heard of, like, the people in old homes and they're moaning and groaning and they're in pain. And I've never experienced being in pain where I have to moan and groan. And I'm sitting in my bed all night long, moaning and groaning. And I'm like, it's like a physical, like, response. I'm not even like trying to moan and groan or trying to be dramatic, but I mean, I just got no sleep. And then the next day, was my girlfriend's, like, graduation. And it was just rough. I mean, my eyes just, in all the photos I took with her, I looked so dead. Um, but it was the ugly. Yeah, it was an ugly next 2 days, I'll say.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and finals week as well. So that was just great to add on top of it. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you so much. It was great to meet all of you.
Good talking to you, Robbie.
Yeah, have a good one.
Enjoyed it, man.
Oh, man. But I know we already mentioned the berm, but it's like, man, how did that berm go down?
Yeah, that's, again, I mean, you guys heard from me. It's where I got off course. It was tough. It was gnarly. And I think I got off course because, like I said, I ran the first maybe mile and a half. Like, there was another guy. There was two people in front of me, and then one guy slowed down, and then we started, like, talking, running together. And I think, like, something that I do, it's like, it's a habit of mine. I've noticed when I run, when I'm, like, starting to get in the pain cave, and, like, Sky, you were referring to it. For me, I like put my head down. So it's like something I don't think about, I guess, when I'm thinking about navigation, but I just put my head down and kind of just go. I just, like, I'm looking at my feet. And so I think we were both kind of doing that. We were talking, just completely missed the sign. It's like, it's hot, sun's out, it's like, it's bright. So, and then we stopped, right? Because we ended up, like, my watch said I went, like, a little over 9 miles on that stretch, but it stretched out further. And so, like, I had planned my hydration and my cooling just for those 6 miles and for a certain time. I definitely wasn't going as fast as Grant was, but I had told myself, like, okay, get through this in, like, an hour and 10. Obviously, it ended up being like an hour and 45, because when we got lost, we were running, and I finally stopped and I was like, hey, man, we've been going for a while. I haven't seen anybody else. And, like, I don't see any flags. I don't see any ribbons. We're not in the right spot, dude. And so we ended up, like, going one way, going another. Then he was, like, calling his mom at the aid station. So we were just out there way longer than we had intended, and that was a longer stretch between aid stations. So that part definitely kicked my ass. And like I said, then I, like, finally made it to the aid station, switched my shoes. I was like, I, like, had to regroup there, so I took a little more time. I think my longest at an aid station was like 8 or 9 minutes, and that was like 8 minutes there or something. But so it was definitely tough, like, mentally. But I kept telling myself, like, remember what I said going into it, like, stay positive, try to stay positive, and not let it be in the back of my mind, because obviously then I was kind of like, well, I'm probably not gonna do this. I wanted, like, 9.5, 10 hours. I was like, well, I probably won't do that. So I was like, all right, my plan's gonna change a little bit, because that just ate away a bunch of time and energy. So now, like, just adjust, try to keep a positive mindset, and just, like, you're here to finish this thing. But overall, that was such a tough spot for so many reasons for me.
It was definitely a challenge. That's for sure. Yeah, I had a little bit of an advantage just from running it last year. So I focused on finding the hard pack sections, and I kind of went from, like, I would run or jog from, like, shade to shade section, and whenever I needed, to take a short little break, I would find a shady spot and kind of stop there for a second. But I just had to keep moving because the sooner I got through it, the sooner I got done with it.
Yeah, the section was tough. I feel like going into it, I was surprised because, I had heard that it was pretty exposed, and I was like, I'm going to be pretty hot during this section. But that didn't really end up being the case. I feel like there was more shade than I was expecting. Um, so it's like that was a positive event. And then for me, it just became about, like I said, I know I alluded towards it earlier, where I was like, I was just going based off effort, not really focusing on pace. For me, it just became about those two things, effort. And I told myself, like, I'm not going to walk a single step during this berm because, it was tough at points. Like it was like, a little rocky when it came to like my footing and stuff like that. And I feel like, I just really wanted to set that mental precedent of, I'm not going to like slow up that much off it. Like, so I guess that's why I landed around like 8:30 to 9:30 minute miles, like going through that section. Cause, it all just became about, keeping effort where it was and, not stopping. I feel like that was my constant internal dialogue. He's like, I'm not going to stop here. Like, I'm just going to keep moving. And that's sort of how I railroaded myself through that section.
Well, I think that's a good mindset on it too, because if you already know, hey, this will kill my momentum, now we accept that it will kill the momentum for a little bit. Like that mindset really helps you get through it.
100%. Yeah. I feel like for me, it's like I knew it was, like you said, going to slow up my momentum. But that internal game of like, you will not stop and walk any step is like, I made sure that it didn't kill my momentum. Like, you know what I mean? Is
Like a switch.
exactly. Like I knew it was going to slow me down, but I wasn't going to let myself fully slow down to it. Like I was like, there's no way. Like I just had to set that mental precedent just straight up. I was like, that will not happen. This will be a small win for myself if I just run this whole thing and, just like know that it's going to be a bit slower, but I'm still going to run it. Like I feel like that was the game and victory I had to play with myself.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, after you hit the berm, you go to that State Route 200, you cross the road, and then now, I mean, you've got all the ups and downs. You go through that grass prairie type area, the horse trail, the equestrian trail, and when you get to the turnaround point, it's because the course is not just a traditional out and back; it's outbound, inbound. You're more than halfway done at this point. What was it like at that halfway point?
For me, it was a kind of like a celebration point for me because I realized that, hey, as kind of crappy as I might feel in one sense, I'm also feeling a whole lot better mentally than I was last year. Like I'm doing okay. I'm here a lot sooner in the day, than I was last time. I have a real shot if I just keep following the strategy I've been following. I have a real shot at finishing this, and that's what kept me going. It was great.
Yeah, I agree, Scott. It was kind of it was like Grant was saying, like a small win there. And I relate to that, Scott. It was like a mini victory. Because I was like, okay, I'm at a turnaround point. And I don't know why, but I thought for some reason on the way back we were gonna have to do the berm again. And my girlfriend was screwing me. So like at that turnaround, she was like, no, I don't have to do that again. So then I was like double happy because I'm like, I don't have to do that shit again. And I'm at this halfway point. That's cool.
Yeah, I feel like for me it was a mixed bag. Coming into that halfway point was I was coming off a really rough section. Like that section from the berm to the halfway point was one of my biggest lows in the race, and a lot of that was because I had really started cramping. Like my cramps had really just started to set in. It was really bad. Like my quads were really hurting me. My calves were starting to cramp up. Like I was just hitting all these cramps, and I was starting to really get down on myself. Like I was starting to, I was like cussing out loud, just like at myself, because all of my races up until this point had like some type of thing where I messed up. Like I was trying to golden ticket for Leadville at a 50K qualifying race in Austin, Texas. And I was on pace to qualify, and I was like in placement, and it was a pretty stacked field, but like I was in where I needed to be. I was running fast enough. And then because like I didn't fuel properly, or like I had a proper fuel strategy, but like in the race, I decided to not take because I was like, oh, I don't want to mess up the speed I'm running at and things like that. I blew up my race, and on the third lap, I was just fully bonked. And like I have this like there was like this history of like all these things happening. So when I started to cramp up, like I just started getting so like upset at myself. So I guess coming into that turnaround, I was pretty messed up mentally because I knew I was off pace. Like I knew, man, at this point, there's no way I'm hitting 7:15. Or going under that. I was like, there's no way. It's like I'm starting to fall off 8-hour pace. Like I'm just, there was a lot of negative things that were sort of, it was like a reckoning for all those negative things. Cause at the halfway or at that point, I had a full spreadsheet built out for my crew on where I should hit every aid station time wise based off my goal range, right? And there was a fast case, a moderate case, and like a back end case across that 7 to 8 hour range. And I was starting to fall off that back end case, and I knew everyone knew it, and I knew that like I knew it because it's like I had an official time to look at to be like, dang, I'm off that by a solid bit. Plus, my stomach was messed up, so it was tough. That was a really tough aid station. It was the one I stayed at the longest out of all of them, and I was starting to really worry if people were coming up after me. In hindsight, it's funny. I look back, and it was an hour gap at that point. But mentally, I was just so psyched out to where I was convinced that someone was eating me up. Like I was like, oh man, like I kept looking over my shoulder, being like, is someone here? Like, is someone coming? It's like that was the low point of the race, honestly. But I'm not trying to be a downer on everyone's positive vibes.
No, but I mean, you rally. At what point, Grant, do you feel like you rallied and got out of that? Was it coming out of that aid station and sitting there resetting, or did it take you a little bit to?
Honestly, funny enough, that next section, the section heading back on the same stretch, was one of my best sections in the race.
That's cool.
I think it's because I threw up a few times, like right after I left the turnaround, and my stomach was like cleared out, so I wasn't feeling that like incredible discomfort in my stomach. Like so,
Yeah.
I averaged like I was heading back, like I was low mid eights for that entire
Wow.
section heading back, and I was like, holy crap! Like I was really happy off that, and then it sort of fell off a cliff after that. It's like it was weird. My cramps and everything caught up to me. So in that section that I'm talking about, leaving the turnaround and heading back, it was really good. And then from there, it was just a mess of tons of cramping and going way slower and walk running and strategically, like I had my watch set to lap instead of overall. So I was calculating it like shows you what your mile pace is estimated to be based off where you are in the mile, right? So it's like if I'm 0.2 into the mile and I've run at like an 8:30 pace, it would say like 8:30, but then as you start walking, it'll start calculating back how long it's actually going to take you to finish out the mile. So I used that as like a live feed that I was playing a game with. I was like, I will not let it go over 12 minutes, right? Or something like that, right? So I would walk a little bit. And then if I see it start to encroach over 12 minutes, I would start running until it was like a comfortable amount under that 12-minute mark. And then I'd walk a bit more. Like that was sort of the game I'd play for a while. It just started getting to that point with my cramps where it was just really bad. But yeah, I guess that's an insight into it.
That's a cool strategy.
Yeah, because I think that's a big thing on that back end too, because you do hit that trail section and then you're introduced to the big long section of the paved path. And it's either your quads are great, your legs are great, or you're a bit tight. So a lot of people have like they either open up and go, or that section can just be a struggle.
Yeah, that section was hell itself. For me, because I was starting to like before that section, I was already really cramping up, so going through that section was just brutal. I was getting really pissed. Just like at at like this like at the path. Like I was just getting really pissed at it. And I really wanted it to be over, and the climbs and just all that stuff. It was messing me up, seriously. Like that was a big low for me. Just because, again, my quads were getting absolutely rocked by the paved path.
Yeah, my quads felt it for sure there. Yeah, obviously the burn was a low for me, and then I did okay to the halfway point coming back, but once we hit that pave section, so like I don't walk a lot in my running, even on the long distance. I just kind of keep a pace, but
Sharp guy,
even if
yeah.
it's slower. And so that is the one of the first sections that I had to start doing some walking. Cause like I was like, even if I'm like 11 minutes, I'm like still moving and I kind of do okay with that. But I had to start walking then. And I think your strategy is pretty cool, Grant. My watch doesn't do that. So like mentally walking freaks me out a little bit, even though I know, right, I can do like, and I was talking to a lot of guys like, okay, you can do 4 minutes of running, 1 minute of walking or whatever, 5, 2. But for me, it was like that stretch just seemed to go on forever because there was a lot of run walking for me. And my quads at that point were also starting to blow up. And that's where I was feeling it big time. Also, I was not as far out in front of you, Grant. Like I ended up finishing like eighth overall, but the majority of the race I did alone. So like I had moments where I was running with somebody, but I think like overall like 40 of the miles I did alone. And that stretch on that pavement, like I saw one person early on and then like I was alone the majority of that. And I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. It was hot. My quads were hurting. I'm run walking this thing. And it was like 13 miles and to me it felt like it was double that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Shane, because, I remarked earlier on how there was a dude, unexpectedly so, but, appreciated for a little bit at the start that was running with me. He was right on my back, running with me for the first 8 miles ish, or maybe even like 7 miles. And then from that point on, the entire race, I was by myself.
Like,
Which definitely, yeah, made it suck. Made like some parts of it really suck because, I was fully by myself. And I don't know, like in that, like you start to, especially because, I don't know, like in order to take the course record, you have to win, right? So it's like, I'm thinking up, like I'm really thinking, starting to get a little paranoid at certain sections where I was just,
sure.
when I was getting down on myself, I was starting to get really convinced that someone was coming for me, So it was like, especially on that paved section, I was like getting like weirdly psyched where whenever there was like a long section where I could see backwards for a long ways, or I knew that I would be able to, I'd like look back to make sure no one was like on me.
Oh
Um,
man, yeah, that's trippy. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little trippy, but I relate to that. Yeah, being by myself, like the whole race was not very fun, honestly.
That's where the road, I mean, you can see so far ahead and then you can look back and still see like the big gap at distance.
Oh yeah, and when I didn't see people, so after I got off course, then that was my paranoia, Brent. I was like, I'm just gonna get off course. So like every time I came to an intersection, I stopped and I was like, no, it's right there. And on that paved section, I remember like texting my girlfriend. I'm like, can you see my location? Am I like going the right way? Because I haven't seen anybody else, and I know I'm not in the lead. Like I know that 100%. So like, there's other people running this thing, and they're not here. So obviously, I went off course because I think this is a trail run and I'm on this freaking road and I'm like, I saw places to turn. And she's like, no, you're on course. Just keep like going straight. So I would like stop and be like, I'm in the wrong fucking spot.
What's that
Yeah,
sign
man.
say? Inbound? Oh, thank God.
Dude, I
Yeah.
was hoping there was a exit to that paved stuff.
Yeah.
Like every time that I didn't like, or my watch, I had the course on, so it was telling me when there were light bends in the path. But whenever there was a bend that was showing in like half a mile, I was like,
Yes.
this is when I'm gonna leave the paved trail. I was like, in half a mile, I'm leaving this thing. But it turns out it was just a bend in the paved trail.
He just kept going.
And then
Yeah.
it would happen again. And I'd be like, this is the time. Like, and I'm just scanning the side, like to see some opening and some exit to the paved things. I was just so over it, man.
For me, it was kind of a bit of a mental game because, with being, as far back as I was, in the pack, so to speak, I remembered part of it. I remember the majority of it, from last year, and I remembered how long that section truly was. So that helped a little bit. But for me, it was just frustrating because that was like I'd been hanging with two guys for the entire day, three guys for most of the day, and that was the point where I had to finally let them go and do my own my own race, my own pace type of deal, because I could not at that point hold on any longer to their pace. And so for me, like, I got not like angry at myself, but I got very frustrated because, it was like a visual reminder of, like how slow I really am. But, I was like, I've been doing so well with, holding pace with them, during the day when they were starting to slip away just a little bit. I was able to reel them back in and get back with my pack. And at that point, the exhaustion and pain levels were just so high that I couldn't reel them in anymore, and they just got away from me. I saw them at one of the aid stations one last time, and then that was it. Like, I never saw them until the end of the race. So for me, I really had to talk myself out of the fact that I was failing, because my brain was like, you've been with them for 30 plus miles now. You should be able to stay with them the rest of the way. And I really had to just talk myself off that ledge and just focus on, like, what is my ultimate goal? What is most important to me? Is it finishing, or is it trying to reel these guys in one more time?
So, it's nice that finally, you go over the land bridge, you get to that land bridge aid station, and now you're back on the trail to the finish. I mean, take me into those final miles. How'd those final miles go to the finish go down?
I gotta tell you, those final miles, like, so I knew that it was like actually like 52 miles. On that, when I started at like 49 miles because of when I went off course. So that was like the mental game for me the whole time. Like, damn it, why did I go like an extra 3.2 or whatever? So I hit 50 miles, and I don't know what happened. Like, my feet I thought I was picking them up. Obviously, I wasn't. I hit a tree root and just fell. And thought I could catch myself with my arms, couldn't. So, like, my head broke my fall. So I like shake it off. I'm like, okay, get up here at 50. I was like, oh, I got 5 more to go. And then that stretch, Grant, that you were talking about. And at first I kind of thought like I was hitting the last piece of like the asphalt where I was done, but I wasn't. I was like crossing a road. And I don't know if I hit gravel or another tree root, but it was like 52 and a half miles for me. And I fell again. And so that one I was like, my knee got messed up. So I was like, oh, my knee's bleeding. I tried to stand up really quick like I did the first time, and I couldn't. So I was kind of like there, like on all fours, on my like hands and knees. And then I was like, all right, you just like, you got like, you're like, this is it. You came here to finish this thing. Like, just get up. And if you can walk a little bit, you can. So I did, and then I remember I got to where we were like, I was looking at my watch, and I'm like, I'm about a quarter of a mile away, and I hear breathing. Like, I haven't seen anybody in so long, since like the turnaround. Like, I just running this whole thing by myself, like that portion, and I hear breathing, and it's a young kid, and like he's like starts passing me, and I'm like, dude, and like so we're like running together, and then he's like, do you know how much longer we have? And I was like, wait a minute. He's, like, asking me so, like, he can turn on the gas here and pass me. And I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna tell him." I was like, "Yeah, dude, we got, like, a quarter of a mile." So, like, he speeds up, and I was like, "Dude, screw this." So, like, I sped up and ended up finishing before him. If you look at, like, the finish, I think I finished, like, 20 seconds in front of him or something. But I was like, and he was young too. I was like, "Dude, I'm old, but I'm not gonna let this young kid beat me." Damn it. So so I finished strong despite the 2 falls.
That's super awesome, dude. I think that's sick. Yeah, that last section was hell. Like, in all honesty. And the reason for that was because I could have sworn. Actually, I still believe this is true. At the previous aid station, so there was that last section, and then there was like the section before it. And at the aid station before that second to last section, I had checked in with my crew, and they were telling me, or my girlfriend was telling me what pace I had to average for all the miles leading into the finish in order to go under 9 hours, right? Like, that was a big thing. It was like, in order to go, because 7-8 hours had both been blown, but 9 hours I was not willing to let go of. I was like, there's no way. So they were telling me what pace I had to hit, and I swear that they told me, like, I don't remember what it was at the time, but just for context, it was like a minute to a minute and a half slower than what they told me at the next one.
Oh.
And it was interesting because in that section, I was having to play active mind games, like I said, like with that lap or whatever, just to hit it because my quads were so messed up. Like they were just in so much pain. And so were my calves that like I was running and it hurt to run. And, I would run anyway and I was hitting those times and I was having to play mental games to hit it. So when I got into that next aid station and I was told like, I think it was 11:15 or 11:30 is what they said, is like what I had to hit for all the rest. And I had known that I had already been fighting so much just to hit what I was hitting. I was like, oh no, like I was pissed. Like I wasn't like super angry, but I was a little like confrontational where I was like, that is not what I was told. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, no, like that's not what I was told. And I think it's because they weren't taking into account the actual time spent at the aid station.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what was making the difference. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm still convinced that I was correct. That I heard them correctly on the last one, but I was like, no, like you told me X. Like I was like, you told me this time, and now you're asking me to do this. Like, and then they were just like, you gotta do it. Like you gotta do it. So when I left that station, it took everything. Like every mile, I was just fighting so much to get under that time, and I was doing it, and I was hitting under the times, and I kept like counting it down. I was like, if I did it for this one, I can do it for the next one, and you know. I guess that's why I was so terrified when that moment hit on that final 2 miles, final 2.5 miles, when I fell in that gravel next to the road.
Mhm.
And I just fell face down. And I had been fighting so hard to consistently get under those splits. And then my legs just like fully locked up. And it was just like so much frustration and like fear, honestly, in that moment. Like I was just bunching like my hands in the gravel and I was just like I was saying out loud like I'm like no no like please God no like please no like I was just like saying that like just out loud just sort of uncontrollably in all honesty because mentally I was so tunnel visioned in on that one thing which was that time right like that goal for each mile and I'm just laying in the dirt just like unable to move and I try and get up and I fall back down like I just like fall down like unable to support my weight. And in that moment, I think there was such a it's interesting. I'm going to like there's a guy well, everyone knows David Goggins, but similar to David Goggins, there's this guy who's talked about these 1 second decisions, right? And he's like your day just comprises of all these important moments that when boiled down come down to 1 second decisions. It's whether you like choose it's what you choose in that moment, right? It's like maybe you have a little bit of frustration at work. It's like how you choose to respond to it. It's like a 1 second decision. Or maybe like something goes wrong in your day or something goes right in your day. It's like how you choose to process and act on that is another 1 second decision, right? All those little decisions. So for me, I think it was a 1 second decision in that moment of whether I was going to give in to my mental games of this is tough, like screw the time, whatever. I'm just going to finish. I'm going to try and like just crawl and finish this thing. Or it was the 1 second decision of I'm going to crawl over to this embankment with the road and I'm going to leverage myself up so I can keep moving and I'm going to go even faster because now I've wasted all this time on the ground. And for me, it was the second one. I was like, you know what, screw it. It was that moment of doubt versus like desire to finish. And I like chose just straight up the desire to do it no matter what, like no matter how bad my legs were. And I think that was what made me able to do it in all honesty because um after I got up and, for a while, like I was just trying to stay vertical in all honesty because my legs were just so jacked. Um, and then I just started going faster and faster because I had to. Like I had to go faster to compensate for the time I was laying on the ground. And, it just became such a thing where then I could just reference that moment to be like, I was literally just face down in the gravel. I can do this. Like I can do it for one more mile. I can do it for this last half mile. And that's sort of how those last miles went for me, in all honesty. And then I came around the bend and it was like 8:57 or something. Like it was a few minutes under. And I was just like, holy crap. Like, I don't know. It was just such a big self-confidence booster of like, you were able to control that moment. I don't know. That's long story, but that's how that last section went.
No, that's so cool. And I think that 1 second decision thing, that's great. Um, Thanks for sharing that. And I mean, it's crazy. I think what you did was awesome and getting up and still getting under the 9 hours course record. That's cool. I mean, way to fight.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That's awesome, dude.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. For me, after the last aid station, like at the last aid station, I should say, my crew, they could tell that I was tired. I was feeling a little bit defeated just because of, the different things I'd been struggling with that day. And I don't know if it was one of them that said it or one of the volunteers or another runner. At that point, I don't remember who was talking to me, to be honest with you. But somebody said, "Can you get up and give me all you got left?" Something along those lines. You know what I mean? Like, can you just get up? Can you get up and give me what you got left? And I don't know if I answered them or not, but I remember getting up right when they asked that. I don't know how, because my body was totaled at that point. But somebody asked, "Can you get up and give me what you got left?" Maybe I was hearing things. I don't know, but I got up. You know what I mean? Like that's that's the important thing. I got back up and I was like, okay, I know that I am further along in the race than I've ever been before. I can do this. I have to do this. I get to do this. So let's just freaking go do this. And, that was kind of like my mindset, trying to go through the last couple of miles. I mean, my feet, I was having trouble getting my legs and feet to do what they wanted or what I wanted them to do. I was tripping over everything. Um, you know, almost fell multiple times. And I'm pretty sure at one point, about halfway between the aid station and the finish line, a tree jumped directly into my path for no reason whatsoever. Because I distinctly remember going out loud, going, "Whoa, where did that come from?" I swear the tree jumped into the middle of the trail. What probably happened was I was falling asleep while I was running, you know, but I swear the tree jumped into my way. That's my story anyway. Sticking to it. You know, literally I put my hand out and like bounced off the tree. Like I was so close to eating it, like with my face. And, pretty sure I would have been found there in the morning if I'd, done that. But I remember it just kind of like cracking me up because like once my heart rate, spike dropped, I was just like, wow. I almost had to explain to, a medical professional how I ran myself into a tree in the middle of the night. Like how do you explain that? Like, yeah, I hit a tree with my face. It was my own fault. And no, I wasn't drinking. Like like I just remember it cracking me up, but it seemed like, at different parts of that last section, it went from this is taking forever to holy crap, I'm going to do this. It was like a roller coaster last couple of miles, in a lot of ways, but I loved it.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so great too, because obviously, you guys finished, you got it done. That like it don't matter if you're going sub 9. It doesn't matter if you're going 10 hours or if you're going 21 hours. I mean, the battle that we fight internally and I guess physically as well to an to a degree, it's all the same.
It's one of those things where, because I had a friend of mine ask me, from back in Pennsylvania, he asked why, like, why do you pay to do these things? Like, why do you sign up for these things knowing that it's going to be that hard, knowing that you're not going to win or whatever? And, I remember my response at the time was, we may not get to choose every battle we face, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. But when we do get to pick our battle, we already have the advantage going into it because we know what's coming, So it might get tough, it might suck, but guess what? Embrace the suck and just do it. Just get through it. Because I chose this battle and I'm getting through it one way or the other. I don't care if I have to crawl, cry, whatever. I'm getting this done.
Yeah, and I mean crossing that finish line. I mean, for y'all, like, what did it feel to cross that finish line?
It was unreal. Something I've been chasing for years and finally getting the chance to do it. Upright under my own power. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't fast, but it was my own personal victory. You know what I mean? So for me, it meant so much.
Yeah. This is my first 50-mile attempt, and Yeah, it's hard to describe when just all the stories we've all told of moments where we had low points and moments where I'm sure we all wanted to quit or trying to force yourself to get up off the ground. And it's hard to describe what that feels like. I think that it's one of those things that you have to do it to have that feeling. I know that's why I have signed up for more because it doesn't matter. It's like, dude, what I got at the end was so cool that wooden plaque, but nothing that I could have gotten a medal, whatever, didn't matter. Nothing's gonna replace the way that it feels when you overcome that and then look back and you're like, you think to yourself, I just did something I never thought uh, that I could or that a person could, and I don't think you can't buy that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was good. I feel like, yeah, hard to describe. It was good. I felt really good about my effort in the last section, and I felt really good for, I don't know, sort of living up to the belief my girlfriend had in me, and like, cuz she was the one that had said the whole thing about locking in. She was like, just lock in, and can you just lock in for me and like do these last miles? And at the time I was like, right when she said that, I experienced like a little bit of anger or just like frustration because I was like, I don't know, like I instantly took it in the worst way possible of being like, oh, I wasn't locked in or something. But she didn't mean that at all. She just meant like, translating it into the positive, that she fully believed that I had the ability to average that pace and go under the time. And, I feel like wanting to prove her right in that moment and then coming around to the finish line and knowing that I had like, looping it back to what I said earlier with the crew, like knowing I had respected their commitment enough to like achieve that or whatever. Like it felt really good. Yeah, it felt really good. So crossing the line, awesome. And then, yeah, I just, my legs hurt so bad. I quickly found a chair. But, yeah, it was really good. It was a really good feeling. Obviously, it wasn't, everything I had planned for, and it didn't really go to plan, funny enough. And a lot of things were experienced that were, more negative and learning opportunities, but yeah, it was awesome. It was really good finishing it out.
Yeah, and with all the good, I mean, I guess we can kind of wrap it up with the class question of the good and the bad and the ugly. I know because Robbie had to jump off, so he already gave us his. But what was the good and the bad and ugly for y'all?
I mean, I can start off. So I guess good, obviously, breaking the course record. I mean, that's big. That was good. Other good was approaching a race more fearlessly, like having a different perspective and achieving that to where I wasn't even concerned with the distance. Like if you had asked me at any point, like I wouldn't have like, and it's funny to say this, but I never had even an inch of doubt at the distance or anything concerning the distance. It's like I almost viewed that as like an afterthought of like, oh, 50 miles. It's like I was going into it with such a different perspective, and that was a good thing for me. Like I feel like that'll really help now. Obviously, that I'm focusing more speed oriented on trail races, and I'm really going to try and make a run at being very competitive, across them. So it's like having that ability to flip that perspective and experiencing that in a race and sort of getting that first one out of the way, I feel like was good. The bad, I'd say, yeah, cramping, the lack of proper strength training to like functional supplemental strength training to simulate that type of um, stabilizer muscle fatigue. I feel like that 100% became one of the biggest reasons why my race went to crap is, well, I'm saying that, but my goal, like my goal sort of fell out the window. Is because I didn't do enough strength training and that muscle fatigue in my stabilizers led to my quads compensating, and then all the cramps were coming out of fatigue because all those my stabilizers were just absolutely fried. So that was definitely bad. The isolation, maybe a little bit bad, a little bit good. I loved, looking back, I loved just being in my head and fighting all those internal battles. But in the moment, obviously, it felt bad. Um, and then the ugly, ugly in the moment, at least, was, yeah, just the halfway point coming in, realizing, really having to way out with myself. The fact that I was off the pace, that really hurt. The throwing up, let's say that was the ugly. And then that section, the section where I was just falling on my face and, I fell. And then also the section where, just that long pavement, I'd say it was the ugly because, I was just the most frustrated and upset during that section. So, I'd say that's my answer to the good and bad and ugly.
Good for me. Obviously, finishing it. My girlfriend came with me. She's super supportive. She was my crew. I mean, she was taking notes down. She had a whole plan. She was great crewing me. And so the good for me was finishing, but also being able to have a supportive partner like that. And it really was overall was a good experience. And so I think again, like completing it was my ultimate goal, being able to say like, hey, I did that thing. But also looking back at me and say like I had an overall good experience and I have a person with me who's willing to spend all day out there crewing me was the good. The bad for me was getting off course. I think spending way too much time out there on the berm. And that was definitely a learning experience. In a way, I'm glad it happened because I'm doing this 100-miler in Georgia, and I think it's definitely going to be um, a lot more difficult from a navigation perspective. This course was marked and not like in the mountains. So I think it was good learning. Grant, you touched on some things like downloading maps to your watch and stuff like that. So I'm still learning a lot of stuff with this, and so it's like made me focus more on that, like the navigation piece. But that was the bad in the moment. I would say the ugly was after the race, like definitely that night. Um, just like difficult to sleep, the aches. Um, like for some reason, like even like sweating for me afterwards. So like that night was pretty brutal. So that would be my ugly.
I think for me, the good, you guys have kind of already referenced it, but being able to, finally accomplish a goal, of mine, get it myself across that finish line for the first time at that distance, uh, was huge. Just as a confidence booster, but also, just being able to, like you guys have also referenced, just honoring the commitment that the crew, you know, had in playing that supporting role. It was huge. Being able to, you know, show my daughter like, hey, daddy kept failing forward, kept trying, finally did it, keep trying the hard thing. So that was really important, to be able to show her that. Um, the bad was definitely spending too much time at the aid stations. I realized, like in hindsight, I spent way too much time, and I let myself feel the pain more than I should have. Because when I was out on the trail and moving, I knew it was there, but I was able to push it to the side for the most part and just kind of ignore it. And at some points, even fuel off of it, because that pain was telling me, hey, you're still moving, you're still, forward is a pace, you're still doing this. Um, so that was definitely the bad for me. The ugly, I would agree, would be the night after, or well, by the time I got finished and got home, it was, obviously the next day. But the day afterwards, I had almost nonstop muscle spasms for almost a full day. Part of that's due to my health issues, and part of that was just due to the fact that I did 52 miles, you know, on the trail and stuff. But I wouldn't trade as a single muscle spasm for anything.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And, to both of you guys, it was awesome hearing your perspectives and, individual stories. I feel like that's one of the cool things about ultramarathons is every single person will have a different story and different series of struggles, even though you're facing the same event, right? So, definitely feel free to reach out to me, guys, individually, and you have my number and feel free to use that, for anything. So,
Cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always up for new challenges, new races. One of my main running goals is to run a race in all 50 states. So I'm always looking for a new race. Drives my wife absolutely insane. I love it.
That's cool. Joe, thanks for the invite. Thanks for this, Grant and Scott. It was great chatting with you guys.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the opportunity, Joe. Keep doing what you're doing with race directing and just supporting the community. Just the way you support everybody from people that have terrible race experiences like Grant. Just crushing the course. And for the rest of us average Joes that are stumbling around the woods at 2 a.m. I know we all appreciate the time and effort you put into each of these events, man.
I have a blast. I love it. All right,
Appreciate it,
guys. Yeah. Good night.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Welcome to the Florida Trail Runners podcast. Out in the woods, out in the swamps, down by the Willie Coochie. It started with a podcast, that's the thing. The Florida Trail Runners. I see the Skunk Ape, chasing me down, chasing me down. We doing the long haul, running all over town, all over town. A station to A station, I see the Skunk Ape, chasing me down. We doing the long haul, running all over town, all over town. Starting in the North Tallahassee, starting Central Florida, Tampa, Ocala, Orlando, Day City, Green Swamp, headed down south, headed to the Keys, Lake to Ocean, Miami, out to the East Coast, Daytona, Jacksonville, Pioneer Trail, on a single trail, running 1 to 100 miles, A station to A station, all around. The Florida Trail Runner. Feet hit dirt where the palm trees sway, mossy oaks, palmetto, pines and cypress, knees, all grass bending, go find your way. Swarm is rising, every step I take, I feel it flow. Beach, sunrise.